Hello and welcome to a special edition of Paul on Politics. On this week's show we'll be looking at the repercussions of the victory by the Conservatives in the Kent County Council election. It swept all before it and emerged with a huge working majority. We'll also be looking at the repercussions of the vote for the other parties, notably UKIP, which managed to lose every single seat that it had gained in 2013. First, Josie Hannett reports on today's results.
After hours of counting, the results are in for the Kent County Council elections. It's no surprise the Conservatives have come out top and regained overall control over one of the largest councils in the country. But it wasn't a happy day for UKIP, losing 12 seats, and Labour certainly didn't get the result they wanted either. The Lib Dems are still small players in the game but have won twice as many seats as Labour.
You only have to look back to the situation 4 years ago when UKIP went from almost a standing start to becoming the opposition. They now appear to have gone back probably to no members at all, and clearly national factors played a very big part in it. At the same time, I think we felt that we had a strong record to run on here in County Hall.
We asked those who voted Labour or UKIP why they changed to Conservative.
Last time I thought I would give UKIP a try because they were pretty, they were high vis in Maidstone, but this time I've gone back to Tory simply because it didn't work.
It sucks, but I'm sort of for why they're losing it. I don't mind about the Brexit because it helps sort of different businesses that I'm for, it should help our local farmers.
I don't vote Liberal because I'm necessarily a Liberal voter. I support my local candidate because he does a good job on the Kent County Council.
The Conservative Party will hope the outcome today will be a sign of what's to come in the general election in a month's time, whether or not Kent will remain a true blue Tory heartland. This is Josie Hannett for KMTV.
Paul Carter, a very successful day for you. What do you attribute your margin of your victory to, particularly?
Well, one is the hard work and the dedication of the volunteers and friends and family that have come out to support our 81 candidates across the 81 divisions in Kent County Council, and of course the position of the national parties and the national politics, and obviously clear endorsement of the direction of travel that Teresa May is taking at the moment, with a very strong stance on the Brexit negotiations and all the other good policies that Teresa May has introduced since she became Prime Minister.
Is it more about Teresa May than your track record then? Is that what you're saying?
I think that, yes, I would suggest that the position of the national parties in local elections are the dominant force, and some 30-40% of the voters will have serious regard for the issues that affect them locally in their areas.
Now, obviously UKIP had a big problem and its votes fell away. Do you think they came back to you in large numbers?
Oh, very much so. I mean, in my own division in Bearsted, a predominantly very safe seat, my majority was seriously affected 4 years ago, and today I'm very lucky I've got a very strong vote and a very large majority. Does
it surprise you that they've disintegrated in quite such a spectacular fashion, or is it just simply the nature of their campaign was to secure a Brexit and they got a Brexit and then no other reason for being there?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody expected the UKIP vote to be substantially reduced, but we didn't expect the annihilation that's gone on from the results I heard this morning from Lincolnshire, Essex and now Kent, with not one UKIP county councillor, is beyond expectation, and I don't think many people would have predicted that meltdown.
Now, you've got a very big majority. Some people say that it's not necessarily healthy for democracy for one party to have so many people in power. Is that a view you share, or are you worried about being held to account properly?
Yes, no, I have empathy with that view. I think you do need a strong opposition. I mean, Trudy Dean, provided she remains leader of the Liberal group, will be the lead opposition party, and we all know she is a formidable political opponent.
You're not going to lose any votes, are you, with a majority of the size you've got?
No, but once you've gone over a certain number, it gets easier to get majorities on committees. But with executive governance, governance and cabinet governance, that dynamic is very different than how it was some 8-10 years ago when we had the committee structure. But even the scrutiny role, the role that the opposition carry out is very important. And some say that having a much larger group to keep it as a coherent, cohesive, happy group becomes more challenging, and that will reflect obviously on my leadership skills.
We know that you have not always seen eye to eye with ministers on various issues and subjects. Are you going to stand up to government when it's taking decisions that you're not in favour of?
Well, I will always stand up for whatever I feel to be the right position to take on the consultations. I mean, at the moment, there's a government consultation that's been frozen on the fair funding for schools and education. And I've been very strong on my views that I don't think that the current indicators of how that would be applied to all schools up and down the country is not hitting the right spot, and he's not delivering the fairness and equity needed in school funding. And I've been very vocal on that, and I will continue to be vocal until the funding issues are resolved. As I say, the Secretary of State came up with a consultation of indicative budgets. I think that needs substantial change before it's brought into being.
Are you saying you want that completely revisited, scrapped maybe, and start again?
No, I'm not saying scrapped. I mean, I've had briefings from the civil servants that devise the methodology. It's the weightings of the various drivers for education funding.
In simple language, that means some schools not doing as well as they ought to be doing, in your view.
Well, I've always said that I found this on the doorstep where residents were telling me they'd always voted Conservatives, but they were concerned about the inequity in school funding and some of the restrictions in the breadth of the curriculum delivery. My issue is that there is too much weighting going into poor prior attainment and social deprivation on top of the pupil premium, whereby I've done the figures, and a high school in East Kent with high social deprivation compared to a middle-of-the-road high school in West Kent is getting over £2 million a year more in their budget, including the pupil premium and the indicative budget set through the consultation. That cannot be right. It's skewed too far in one direction and restricted the majority of secondary schools that need additional funding, and getting that balance right is key.
Now, we know you're probably more in agreement over an issue like grammar schools. Are we going to see more grammar schools in Kent over the next 4 years?
Well, as I've said before, when we need to expand the proportion of grammar school places, we should be able to do so, and the hoops that we've had to go through to get the Sevenoaks Annex underway has been highly complex. We've sorted out the problem in Sevenoaks for the girls. We now need to resolve grammar school education for the boys in Sevenoaks, and I hope the new regulation that comes in will allow us to do that in a much simpler way.
And one final question. What are you going to say about adult social care? Because there's a real crisis there. You've said this current spending is fine, the injection of cash, but it's not sustainable over the long term. That really has to be addressed, doesn't it?
Well, we really welcome that additional £2 billion, some £17 to £20 million for social care in Kent over the next 3 years. But as Teresa May has recognised, there needs to be a long-term, sustainable funding mechanism for social care. And that may mean an insurance fund, either created by the private sector or by the public sector, and we've got to mirror and reflect some of the successful social care funding packages here across Europe, in Holland and Germany, and I'm told Japan have a way of producing a fund to support the elderly in old age being able to draw down from that fund the costs of social care. Because at the moment, only 30% of the vulnerable in need of domiciliary care packages and residential care packages get state funded. The rest have to deplete their family wealth to pay for it. And we need to have a system that integrates health and social care, which is free at the point of delivery through that insurance fund, both for social care costs married to the free at the point of delivery for National Health Service services.
The fortunes of political parties always vary, don't they? It's ups and downs. Is this one of the best days for the Conservatives you've had?
Well, when I was on the doorstep, I said it's been the best ever. I've been canvassing and knocking on doors for some 40 years now, and the response we got on the doorstep was really very, very positive, and the most positive I've experienced, as I say, in those 40 years, and I've done a fair bit of that over that period of time.
And as leader, are you going to go on and on? Like a certain Margaret Thatcher?
Review it year by year. I have to fill in a form to stand for my re-election by the Conservative group, and I certainly intend to go before I'm pushed. I won't overstay my welcome, but there's a big agenda ahead, and I will be here for some time into the future with the backing and support of the Conservative group.
Paul Carter, thank you very much. That's the view of the leader of Kent County Council, but there is one issue which is sometimes overlooked in town halls, and that's the representation of women in local government. We've been talking to two women who have got strong views on how to address this problem.
Theresa May, Nicola Sturgeon, Angela Merkel. Although we see more and more women at the helm in global politics, they remain heavily underrepresented in local government. In Kent, Thanet District Council has 21 female councillors out of 56, which makes them the best in the county, while Swale Borough Council is the worst with 10 women out of 47 councillors. And it doesn't seem like we are going to see a big increase in the numbers after today's electoral results. But why is it that there are less women councillors? Many women choose not to get into politics because they want a career for themselves, or they simply find it too intimidating.
I think that the County Council here is too confrontational. I think that the meetings tend to be of the sort where a woman finds it difficult to put their view across. In the council chamber, a woman's voice is very much lighter than a man's. I know that seems a small point, but it's important when everything is webcast these days. But I do think that the County Council is unnecessarily confrontational, and I think women find that difficult to cope with and frankly quite tedious.
Even though 4 of the 6 biggest national parties have women as leaders, there is still work left to do. Labour has just approved its highest ever percentage of women candidates for a general election. The Liberal Democrats have all women shortlists when selecting candidates who replace sitting MPs. And the Prime Minister herself was a founding member of Women to Win, the Conservatives' effort to bring more women into politics.
I think what's difficult for women to get into politics is that they don't see role models. They don't necessarily think it's a job that they can do or should do or could be good at. So that's one thing. And I think for women in general, we tend to hold back until we know we can do a job, whereas men seem to power forward with confidence that they can do it even if they don't have the relevant experience. We need men to be involved too. This is not a women's issue, this is an issue. And if we don't have buy-in from men, we're not going to be able to achieve anything.
The results of today's county elections and the upcoming general election might change the makeup of the UK's gender politics. But for those who work on it, the issue is here to stay. This is Boglarka Kostolani reporting for KMTV.
Well, Teresa Murray, there's clearly an issue here that needs addressing. What is your solution to the problem?
Absolutely, I think the piece we've just seen said it all really. Women are underrepresented on all councils and they're definitely underrepresented in Kent. And one of the reasons that I want more women to join councils is because the services that councils run, like education and health, are dominated by women workers, and they deserve to hear a female voice making decisions about their careers. Apart from that, obviously we want councils, we want elected representatives to look like the society we come from, not like some kind of weird group of people that are not representative. So they're the sorts of things that I think we need to encourage each other as women and men, because that's really important, to make sure that when we elect our representatives, when we select our representatives, there are women having just as good a chance as men.
You step into most council chambers around Kent and you'll find a lot of grey suits confronting you.
Yeah.
What, in your view, is important to change in order to get better representation of women?
I think one of the key things women need, particularly younger women, role models. And it's something I've spoke of a lot in the past, is having good, strong female role models in your council chamber, in your local parties, and also having good mentorship from those female role models. So
how do you get to that, though?
So to get to that, we need to create a friendly atmosphere and environment where we encourage the younger generation to come up, and particularly those that may not be as forthcoming. And particularly in meetings, I think it's really important to take the view of everyone, even those that are being slightly quieter.
I think we also have to do a few things like introduce technology into meetings. You know, one of the reasons that women don't put themselves forward for election is because a lot of meetings are at family unfriendly times. And there's no reason actually why somebody couldn't participate in a meeting on Skype, you know, teleconferencing. It's very, very underutilised. We should think about having creches, having facilities for children in councils. A lot of women, and particularly women in their 50s and 60s, are caring for older parents and caring for grandchildren as well. So their lives are pretty busy, but the contribution they can make because they do all of those things and the influence that they can have on decisions is huge and really important because, you know, if I part of making
so it's
decisions.
about making the environment easier.
I think flexible working is a really important point.
Yep.
So I'm reasonably young, I don't have any caring responsibilities, and I have a very supportive family network and local party network that I can really rely on. But we need to make it easier for those that do have the caring responsibilities, and that burden at the moment ultimately rests in most families on women. So that's not only caring for older parents, like my mum has to do, but that's also childcare responsibilities. And that's a societal point as well. I think bringing in more equal paternity leave will start, I hope, to shift the balance, and then we'll see a positive impact on local government.
Can I just pick up on the point that Trudy Dean was making about this? She feels a kind of intimidatory atmosphere in council chambers. There's plenty of testosterone flying around when you've got male-dominated council. Is that something which you think women will look at and say, well, I don't want to be part of that?
I think the atmosphere in council chambers isn't particularly friendly to anybody. You know, the public will often complain, for example, that they can't contribute to meetings, that they're pushed in a position where they have to sit at the back of the chamber. They don't have an opportunity to kind of really see people face to face. We need more things like public question times.
Both saying the same things, but what I'm trying to get to is what practical steps need to happen?
Well, I think Emily's just mentioned the times of meetings, and you know, it's a rock and a hard place, isn't it? If you're working, it's difficult to come in the daytime. That means we need employers to be more respectful and understanding about the responsibilities of elected representatives. And we need elected representatives to be able to go to their employer and actually demand their rights. There are rights about being an elected representative.
They're probably not well known, are they?
No, exactly. So there's an education there that needs to be done.
We need to make that a bit more sensible.
Emily, can I touch on this on the social media side of things? Because you now live in a world where everything's on Twitter and Facebook.
Yeah.
And while there are upsides to that, there are also downsides in terms of the kind of abuse and adverse comments sometimes people post. Do you think that is possibly a deterrent as much as a positive thing?
I think social media forums, Twitter, Facebook can all be forums of healthy debate, and I think they've actually encouraged a lot more participation in politics than perhaps was available before. Yeah. But we've both been on the receiving end of a fair amount of abuse on social media, and I think some of that disproportionately affects women, particularly because it might pick up on image and that sort of thing, which affects men, but it does affect women as well. And that's something that could be addressed. But I think ultimately it is a positive forum.
We've seen some parties explore the notion of all women shortlists, for example, and quotas. Where do you stand on the idea of quotas?
Well, yeah, I mean, it was picked up in the video that we introduce all women shortlists for national elections, so for general elections, particularly in our target seats. So Liberal Democrats have fewer safe seats than perhaps Labour or the Conservatives do, but we've introduced them, and that's been hugely successful over the last year. And I would like to see that brought down to a local level. So it's not only kind of encouragement, it's actually a hard line. Okay, we have put our money where our mouth is and said, okay, we're having an all-women shortlist here because we know it's a strong area for us.
Absolutely. Labour have done it. We've done it.
We've got a bit of flack, hasn't it?
Well, we have had a bit of flack, but we've done it. It's there. It's party policy, and we'll continue to do it until the numbers reflect women and men in society properly. You know, I don't want to see women abused who are in the Liberal Democrats or in the Tory party.
Well, that goes for men as well.
I want to see women treated fairly. It goes for men as well, but unfortunately, women do get the lion's share of abuse. Now, I don't know why that is. The answer is not to trash men and say, oh, well, you know, they're all terrible and that's why we can't get on. The answer is to encourage each other. And if Emily and I just bang on about it because we're women, that won't reach the people that it needs to reach.
We've seen the emergence of the Women's Equality Party as quite an interesting phenomenon. What do you think about a single-issue party?
Yeah, Yeah, I think single issue parties are quite good at putting a spotlight on an issue that we all need to become more aware of, and they've done a huge amount with improving awareness of that particular issue. And we do a lot at a local level in many boroughs, particularly in London, with the Women's Equality Party, and quite often many will support another party where is needed. But I do think we're both here because we realise there is a problem, and if there is a problem and we're talking about it this much, a radical solution does need to be looked at.
So a final question to you both. I mean, are you more optimistic? Are you is the glass half full or half empty?
Always. You know, if we give up hope, we haven't got anything. The glass is half full for me. I'm optimistic that programmes like this and other initiatives will get more women involved in local government, and I look forward to working with them all and supporting them.
Emily's?
I'm really proud that last year I was elected alongside 3 other fantastic young women, and I think I look around the council chamber now, I see our fantastic group leaders that are all incredible female role models, and the people I was elected with, and I think there's a real hope for the future.
Okay, well, thanks to both of you for coming in and joining us for this debate. Well, that's the end of one tumultuous day in Kent politics, with the results of the County Council election showing the Conservatives in a powerful position at County Hall. And there are questions for UKIP to answer after its disintegration and the loss of every single seat that it won in 2013. But that's just one election. We've got the national election coming up on June the 8th. You can keep up to date with me at Paul on Politics on Twitter or on KentOnline. Until then, have a good day.